Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm excited to be here today with Val Robbins. If this is your first time tuning in for a live with us, we are going to be going live over the next couple of weeks, almost 2 months actually, which is great. We put together a lot more time this time to get through these with folks. We host the annual Data Connect conference here in Columbus, Ohio, every year. The next one's coming up here in July 11th and 12th. And we've been on our live streams over the last couple of weeks talking a lot about our annual DataViz competition. Last year, for the first time, we set up these kind of live streams to talk through all of the finalists around their presentations and why they put together the vizzes that they did. So we're going to be going over those with our top 10 finalists over the next couple of weeks. So again, really excited to be here with Val today to give some context also around the data competition and like how we got here. We get hundreds and hundreds of these applications in every year. With the help from the team at Apexon, we somehow narrow these down to a top 10, which is crazy to think about. It's a pretty vigorous process, but it's always fun to see what people put together. And then from that, we take our top 10, we open it to a virtual vote, which is live now. At the end of this little conversation, we will go through how you can vote for your favorite and navigate through each one of these finalists' vizzes. And yeah, hopefully you'll join us to vote. And then we'll narrow it down into a top five. The top five will have an opportunity to join us live at the Data Connect conference here in Columbus, Ohio on July 11th and 12th. And all of the attendees at the event will help us narrow it down to a top three. The top three will receive some cash prizes, little trophies, all sorts of fun stuff. So thanks, Val, for joining us today. I appreciate it. Would love for you to take just a moment or two to introduce yourself, how you got involved in the data viz space, and then we can kind of jump into your data visualization.
Okay, as Kelsey said, my name is Val Robbins, and I have a background actually. So I'm coming at this a little differently. I have a background in visual design. I studied fine arts and then pivoted to graphic design, and for years designed everything from children's books to business collateral to websites for Nat Geo, and then went back to print design, designing for Historic Annapolis. And I'm a little more advanced in years, so when my youngest went off to college, I returned to school and having a love of analysis and research and storytelling, went back to Maryland Institute College of Art in their DataViz master's program, and just absolutely went bonkers, loving it, learning not only the statistical side, statistics, which I didn't, and I love statistics, but I didn't expect to love the EDA process as much as I did. And now that's one of the absolute favorite parts of this whole process, is getting to dive into data and seeing what nuggets pop up, and then tracing those rabbit trails to see what's behind those kernels of truth, or perhaps maybe misrepresented truth, that pop up. And so that master's program was a great way of marrying a newfound skill and a visual approach, a way of making data visually accessible to those who perhaps need a different way of understanding the story behind the numbers.
Awesome.
So,
Yeah, I love it. And it's very apparent, I think, from your visualization that you have some sort of art background. It is beautiful. So would love an opportunity to share that. And I would love to understand kind of what your inspiration was behind curating this visualization specifically, and why such a focus on this particular topic.
so I'm originally from South Florida. I live in Annapolis, Maryland, but I've been really disheartened to see how the environment and the wildlife and just the overall texture of South Florida has been denigrated by both development and the unfortunate effects of unfettered agriculture. Um, and in wanting to understand the root of what was causing that, I reached out to one of my favorite environmental journalists and asked him, if he were to do something having to do with the Everglades, which provides one third of all the drinking water to South Florida, what would he focus on? And he said the water. More than any other issue, the key issue was the water. And through a series of events, I got in touch with Friends of the Everglades. Somebody there put me in touch with their chief scientist, Dr. Van Lent, who told me the story of periphyton, which is a collection of organisms that serve as the foundation for the whole food web in the Everglades. And he directed me to Dr. Evelyn Geyser at Florida International University, who is the top expert on periphyton, and her lab continues to report data on periphyton abundance in the Everglades. It is used as the measure for how much phosphorus is in the environment. The Everglades is a low phosphorus environment, and when it gets above 10 parts per billion, periphyton dies, and the food web breaks down. So I thought that was an incredibly important story, and I didn't know about periphyton when I was growing up in Florida. And it is just a remarkable substance. I took a visual approach because periphyton itself, if you look at it, it's really, really ugly. It looks like goose poop. But when you learn about it itself, it's like this amazing substance, this hero. So that's how it popped up in my mind in the middle of the night as a superhero, and I pulled out my iPad and I sketched it, and that little character is the original drawing that I drew in the middle of the night.
That's
So
awesome. I love that story. Thank you so much for sharing kind of your insights there and where that inspiration came from. Yeah, you would never guess that it was like an ugly thing. I think what you've done is beautiful. So thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, would love to. If you have anything specific you'd like to dive into, I know
I think it's
there's
probably
probably too much in here to go through the whole thing, but yeah, if you'd like to point
and
out
I think
any
it's probably
specifics, that'd be
best to jump right to the data visualizations. I can just tell you that this scrolly telling story on Story Maps gives the background of periphyton. It tells the story, and you can go straight to tells the story of what periphyton is composed of. And so there are 5 elements, and then underneath, if you continue to scroll, just a small part of the food web, how it behaves in the marsh. And so that as you continue to scroll, you learn about the different activities. It's better to look at it on a tablet or a larger monitor. And I actually have plans to go back and redraw the marsh to make it more accessible to a smaller platform. So then you learn about its political and its legal significance, and how the government sued the state of Florida, and had to find a way to measure how polluted the water was, and periphyton was chosen. So you can read all about the history of the Everglades, the legal history of using periphyton, and then dive into the data that comes from Dr. Evelyn Geyser's lab. I used R Studio to clean and analyze the data. There were a number of libraries that I used for the EDA. And then I exported the CSVs and imported them into RawGraphs 2.0 so that I could play with different visualizations. And then I brought those If you want to pause right, if you go up just to that, this is the overall scatter plot that demonstrably shows each of those colors represents a different basin in the Everglades, different testing sites. And the lime green, I chose the color so that they would stand out. The dark green is Lake Okeechobee. They stopped testing there. There were only 2 counts of periphyton over the course of the time that they were testing there, because the phosphorus levels are so high. The light green is one of the superstar areas of the Everglades, the Shark River Slough, and that's where you see a ton of periphyton abundance. But you only see 1 count of periphyton occurring above 10 parts per billion. And I mean, it is so dramatic. And most periphyton above 5 parts per billion doesn't show up. So if you scroll down to the next these individual, this is the data broken up by their testing areas. And I hand drew these maps, and the scatter plots were exported from R, and then I merged them in a drawing app in using Adobe Illustrator. And so you can see greater periphyton abundance in areas that are farther away from development and the agricultural district, which is right under Lake Okeechobee. And if you scroll down to the next chart, this is the circle packing shows the larger the circle, the greater the count of the larger the amount of phosphorus in the sample. And so this is floating periphyton analyzed. No, what am I saying? I'm sorry. So this is the periphyton samples that were processed in the lab, and with the phosphorus counts, and you can see with each of the different basins where the largest amount of phosphorus is, and there are demonstrably fewer counts of periphyton. Each of those dots represents a different testing area within each of the different basins. So I just found this to be really graphic in its demonstration of the effects of phosphorus on periphyton as
Definitely.
it's tested in the lab. And then if you go down to the next chart, this is looking just at floating periphyton. And oh no, wait, I'm sorry, I'm getting flustered. So this is, yes, this is floating periphyton. So there are 3 different types of periphyton. That what floats at the top, the epiphytic, which attaches itself to the plants, and then the benthic, which is what occurs at the base, at the bottom of the basin, and
Sure.
that floats up. So this way you can see what's actually what areas have an environment where that periphyton can get fluffy and float up to the top, and you've got this sort of balanced environment.
Yeah,
Um,
that makes
and then
sense.
the last one is uh, the the distribution of water. So where periphyton is most abundant is in that basin that we talked about earlier, the Shark River Slough. That was the bright green. And so this violin chart, the darker the color, the more vibrant the blue, the higher the count of periphyton. And you can see what that periphyton is happiest in more consistent low measures of water. It doesn't really show up in deep counts of water, in deeper. It likes the shallow water, that slow moving river of grass. So
Awesome. Yeah, I love this, and I love the. I also had no idea what periphyton is before I looked through your presentation. So you learned something new. I also love just the variety of different types of visualizations you used throughout the whole process, and also, right, like the illustrations are beautiful, and I think really drive the point home. So I really appreciate you sharing this with us and kind of talking through some of the things that you thought about when you were evaluating, the concentration of this in each basin and what that means. And your visit is so well thought out and all encompassing. I know you mentioned needing to add some additional things to it for it to feel complete, but I think you've done an excellent job, and I appreciate you submitting this for the competition. I would love an opportunity. Obviously, we can't dive into everything quite as much as we would like to. So I would love to share with our audience today how they can actually, look at this and evaluate it and read through it and think a little more strategically around it. And then also, folks will have an opportunity to vote for their favorite as well. So let me swap my screens here, and I can show folks how they can vote for their favorite. So again, we've narrowed this down from hundreds of applications to 10. We are counting on you virtually to vote for your favorite. So I would highly encourage you to spend some time diving into each one of these data vises and really navigating those and putting some thought into what your favorites might be, and then casting your vote for your favorite. So if you go to the Data Connect conference website, dataconnectconf.com, you can click into this drop down here, DataViz competition. It'll take you right to our DataViz page. You can scroll down and click through each one of these top 10 vises. If you're interested in learning a little bit more about the viz itself, you can read through that here. You can view the entry, and that'll actually take you back to that page where we were scrolling through and discussing each of those individual elements. That way you have time to kind of go back through and absorb all of the great information that Val's put together for us. And then once you have, I would highly encourage you to navigate through each and every one of these. Once you've determined which is your favorite, you can cast your vote here. It'll take you to our voting page, which will just list them out. All you need to do is remember the name, and you can click on your favorite and submit your vote. That voting is open through April 26th. So at the end of the day on April 26th, we'll close voting down. We'll spend the weekend tallying each and every one of these votes, and then we will announce our top 5 on April 29th. Again, those top 5 will have an opportunity to join us at the Data Connect Conference live in Columbus, Ohio. We take care of hotel. We take care of your conference ticket. We do offer a flight stipend as well. So we like to make it really easy for each of our top 5 finalists to join us in person at the event. If you've not been to the event before, we also set up this really cool kind of like art exhibit style, like big screens, and folks can interact, and we like drape everything off, and it's really beautiful. So we call it our DataViz gallery. And then, all of the attendees will have an opportunity to really interact with those vises in person, and then cast their vote live to determine the top 3 at the event, which we will announce on July 12th. So thank you so much, Val, for walking through that with us. Again, I think what you've put together is beautiful. I'm really excited to continue these conversations with some of the other finalists. And anything else you'd like to share?
That would not have been possible without Dr. Evelyn Geyser at FIU and her directing me to 2 of her doctoral students who shepherded me through the data and made sure that I was handling it correctly. So I just have to, it's important to give credit. Like I did all of the EDA, but then once I created the charts, they kept me honest.
Definitely. We love that. Yeah. And I know you mentioned some information around that research is available directly through the Viz as well. So if you're looking to dive a little further into that, that is all available within the visualization. So
thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Val, for joining us. I appreciate it. And we'll see everyone. We've got these types of conversations spread out again over the from now until the 26th when the votes close. So stay tuned for the next one, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks so much.
Thanks so much.